In 4 European countries, migrants make up at least a quarter of the population, and in 2 they're even more than half. Europe has always been a land of immigration. Just consider that in the European Union alone, in 2022 more than 3.7 million people emigrated, taking into account both Europeans who moved to another country on the continent and non-Europeans who came to live in Europe. The latter represent 5.4% of the population currently living in Europe. In this video, we will see which are the 10 European states with the highest percentage of migrants, according to data provided by Eurostat or the statistical institutes of the various European states. And at the end of the video, we will also take a look at the European microstates to discover some very interesting news. And if you want some information about your country that is not on this list, please ask in the comments. Welcome to this new video by Amazing Europe. Number 10. Ireland. In 2022, 13.2% of those living in Ireland were immigrants, and 53% of migrants living in Ireland come from European Union countries. Regarding the reasons that prompted these people to emigrate, only 27% of them did so for work. In fact, 23% of migrants moved for family reasons, 22% for study and the remaining 28% for other reasons, including asylum applications. In this country, non-EU citizens are much more likely to apply for Irish citizenship. In terms of salary, Irish citizens earn the most in Ireland. In fact, EU expats earn almost 18% less than Irish people, while those from outside Europe earn almost 21% less. However, there is an interesting fact. Although Irish citizens earn more on average, EU immigrants are less at risk of poverty and social exclusion than Irish people. It therefore seems that there are those among Irish citizens who earn a lot and those who earn very little, while among migrants from other EU countries, although they earn less on average, the vast majority of them still earn enough to live decently. Number 9. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is not part of the European Union, and we did not take the information from Eurostat, but from the OECD and the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford. In June 2021, foreign citizens resident in the UK were around 14.3% of the resident population, while in 2004 they were 9%. Looking for more recent data, we saw that the number of expats is continuing to increase, but since different sources reported conflicting statistics, we decided to report the official OECD data, which however are only up to 2021. If you have more recent official data, please share them with the community by writing them in the comments. 64% of immigrants come from outside the European Union. London is the preferred destination for expats, especially those from outside the European Union. In fact, 37% of the inhabitants of the London region are expats. The second region is the southeast, with migrants representing 14% of the population. The territories with the lowest percentage of migrants are Wales and the northeast of England. India is the most common country of origin for migrants in the UK. In fact, 9.3% of expats were born there. The second and third countries are Poland and Pakistan respectively. The main reason that non-EU citizens moved to the UK was family reunification, while EU citizens moved mainly for work. Number 8. Estonia. 15.3% of the population in Estonia are immigrants, 89.5% of whom come from non-EU countries, almost exclusively Russia. However, in recent years, more and more European citizens have chosen this wonderful country as their destination. In fact, of the almost 20,000 people who immigrated to Estonia in 2021, only 43% were non-Europeans, and this is by no means an isolated case. Every year, more and more Europeans are attracted by the growing economy of this nation, which was once known, along with Lithuania and Latvia, as one of the Baltic tigers. Non-Europeans, however, continue to be the vast majority of those who apply for Estonian citizenship. In fact, in 2021, 98% of those who acquired Estonian citizenship came from non-EU countries. However, these people earn significantly less than Estonians. The average salary of non-Europeans in Estonia is 26.5% lower than the average salary of Estonian citizens. But if you look at immigrants from the European Union, the situation changes. In fact, they earn 7.6% more than locals, and this shows that Estonia is a country that attracts skilled workers and entrepreneurs from the rest of the European Union. Number 7. Norway. Norway is not part of the European Union, and we did not find the data for this country on Eurostat, but on the official website of the Norwegian Statistical Office, and they are updated to 2023. 16% of the inhabitants of this splendid nation are immigrants. 45% of migrants come from the European continent, 30% from Asia, 12% from Africa, and the remaining 13% from the rest of the world. In 2022, more than 90,000 expats moved to Norway, almost double the previous year. Never before have there been so many immigrant arrivals. Norway has a solid integration program for immigrants, in which they are taught, for example, the Norwegian language and culture. In 2022, 61% of immigrants completed the program, 1% less than the previous year. As for the application to become citizens of Norway, in 2022 this honor was bestowed on almost 40,000 immigrants. There was a peak of new Norwegian citizens in 2021 and 2022. Number 6. Iceland. Like Norway, Iceland is not part of the European Union, and we have taken the data for this country from the official Icelandic Statistical Office, and they are for 2022. 16.3% of the inhabitants of this enchanting island are immigrants. In 2021, it was 15.5%, which shows how Iceland is becoming an increasingly popular destination for expats. 34.2% of the total immigrant population in Iceland was born in Poland. The second largest group was born in Lithuania, followed by people born in Romania. A total of 905 people obtained Icelandic citizenship in 2021. The new citizens were mostly of Polish origin, but also Vietnamese. In 1991, it was mainly men who obtained Icelandic citizenship, but from then until now, it has mainly been immigrant women who have become Icelanders. As for the preferred locations of migrants, the three Icelandic regions with the most expats are Southwest, Westfjords, and Capital Region, while the regions with the fewest migrants are Northwest and Northeast. Number 5. Austria. 17.7% of the inhabitants of Austria are immigrants, 52% of whom come from other EU countries. In 2021, around 120,000 migrants went to live in Austria, and 62% of them came from the EU. This shows how this small and wealthy nation has become an increasingly popular destination for people from the rest of Europe in recent years. However, they are not the ones who want to become Austrians. In fact, immigrants from other EU countries do not seem to be particularly interested in acquiring Austrian citizenship. In 2021, 90% of those who acquired Austrian citizenship were not from the EU. Interestingly, the number of new Austrian citizens doubled in 2021 compared to the previous year. Austria is one of the European countries with the biggest salary gap between locals and immigrants. The average salary of Austrians is 20.5% higher than that of immigrants from other EU countries, and 36.2% higher than that of non-EU migrants. The latter also do not seem to be doing well in terms of the risk of poverty or social exclusion, which is 43.8%. Number 4. Cyprus. 18.8% of the inhabitants of Cyprus are immigrants, 55.3% of whom come from other EU countries. Cyprus is a popular destination for both EU members and citizens of other countries. In fact, of the approximately 24,000 migrants who went to Cyprus in 2021, half were from outside the EU and half were from inside the EU. One of the two main reasons why people move to Cyprus is for work. This is one of the European countries where workers are happiest, as we have already seen in the video you can find in the description, and it is often chosen as their ideal destination by people who work from home. The other main reason why people move to Cyprus is to try to enter the European Union as a refugee or asylum seeker. However, we will explore the issue of refugees and irregular immigrants in more detail in another video. If you don't want to miss it, subscribe to the channel. One sore point for Cyprus is that it is the second country on this list with the lowest average salary. Moreover, the average salary of immigrants from the EU is almost 20% lower than that of locals, while the salary of non-EU immigrants is 30% lower than that of Cypriot citizens. Number 3. Malta. The population of this small archipelago is 20.6% immigrants. Of these, the majority are not from the European Union, but in recent years the situation has been changing slightly. In fact, Malta is increasingly being chosen by EU citizens as their work destination. In fact, 54% of the people who immigrated to Malta in 2021 were from the EU. The main reason people move is for work. 69% of them find Malta the ideal place to work. In fact, it is worth noting that the average salary of immigrants from the European Union is 23% higher than the average Maltese salary. These are therefore skilled workers, who often work from home for non-Maltese companies, but who love the lifestyle and climate of this wonderful archipelago. Immigrants from outside the European Union, on the other hand, earn an average of 13% less than the Maltese population. However, here too, people from the European Union who come to live here do so mostly temporarily, or at least do not want to take Maltese citizenship. In fact, in 2021, 91% of new Maltese citizens were from outside the European Union. Number 2. Switzerland. Switzerland is also not part of the European Union, and we have taken the information from the Swiss State Secretariat for Migration. Almost 25.5% of the population living in Switzerland is made up of migrants from all over the world, but especially from Portugal, Germany and Italy. In 2022, around 114,000 citizens of the European Union and EFTA immigrated to Switzerland, and 48,000 citizens of other countries. The first reason why people move to Switzerland is obviously work. In 2022, 53% of people who entered Switzerland did so because of the job opportunities and high salaries available here, as we saw in the video on European countries with the highest salaries. Family reunification and study were the second and third reasons people moved here. In 2022, 41,500 people became Swiss citizens, mainly from Germany, Italy, Kosovo and Portugal. This is 12% more than the previous year. In general, immigration to Switzerland is increasing every year. In fact, in 2022, around 21,000 more people moved to Switzerland than in 2021. Before revealing number 1 and the final bonus, if you found this video interesting, we would really appreciate it if you liked it, subscribed to the channel and clicked on the bell to enable notifications. This would help us a lot to spread our project to discover more and more of the fantastic European continent. Thank you very much. Number 1. Luxembourg. Luxembourg is the European country with the highest percentage of migrants, although it is not really correct to say so, as we will see in the final bonus. 48.1% of the inhabitants of Luxembourg are migrants. This small country has been the preferred destination for many Europeans for many years. In fact, 79.2% of migrants come from other EU countries. Obviously, work was in the past the main reason that pushed people to move to Luxembourg, although in recent years what has made it possible for migrants to move here is a family permit. For example, in 2021, 49% of people came to Luxembourg to reunite with their loved ones. Unlike most of the countries mentioned so far, the majority of people applying for Luxembourgish citizenship are from the European Union. For example, in 2021 they were 65%. They are obviously attracted by the salary, which is very high even for migrants. In fact, expats from the European Union earn only 8.5% less than Luxembourgish citizens, while expats from outside the European Union earn almost 27% less, but it is still a decent salary. To be precise, Luxembourg is not actually the first European state in terms of percentage of migrants. In fact, there are 2 other states higher in the ranking if microstates are taken into account. Luxembourg and Malta are also small countries, but the 5 European microstates are Andorra, San Marino, Liechtenstein, Monaco, and the Vatican. If these are also taken into account, the top 2 European states in terms of percentage of migrants are Andorra and especially the Principality of Monaco, with around 57% and 68% of expats respectively. In both of these states, the majority of migrants come from other EU countries. Immigration has always been a topic of study and analysis. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments, and also your experiences if you are expats yourselves. If you are interested in the topic, you can take a look at what expats think of Europeans, by watching the video at the top right which shows the 10 most friendly European countries according to immigrants. Well, that's all for this video. Have a good day and see you next time.